Hello everyone, and welcome to the next in our series of marketing and communications webinars for your congregation. Today I'm happy to present Social Media 101 for your congregation. Today we're going to learn how to use social media as an invaluable tool for your congregation for both marketing and communications. Our presenter today is Kate Bigham. Kate is the URJ's Social Media and Community Manager, and she is responsible for maintaining the Reform Movement's blogs, Facebook page, Twitter account, and much more. Kate has really driven the URJ's presence on social media and guides it on a daily, if not continual basis. Some of you may know Kate as a prolific blogger whose writing has been featured both in the New York Times and in the Washington Post, and it is my pleasure to turn the presentation over to Kate.
Hi, Victor. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody for joining us today. I'm excited to talk to you about social media and to do a little bit of a behind-the-curtain Wizard of Oz thing into the URJ's social media. And hopefully give you guys some tools today that will help you build up your congregational social media in a really meaningful and engaging way. Excuse me. So here's what I promised you, just for a little background of what we told you that this webinar would be about. We're going to try to get through all of it today, but we do have a lot of people on the call, and I want to be able to take some questions. So we'll get through as much of it as we can, and if there are pieces afterwards that I haven't covered, all of these slides will be available, and I'm happy to answer questions and talk through some things with you by phone or email afterwards. So let's move to getting started. This quote from John Maynard Keynes: "The difficulty lies not so much in developing new ideas as in escaping from the old ones." I have to give credit for using this quote to Isti Bardos, who is the communications manager at Temple Israel in Memphis. I emailed with Isti before planning for this webinar to see what sort of insight he could give me into his role doing social media for a synagogue, and what sort of things he thought would be the most interesting to you guys. Temple Israel is a congregation that's doing social media really, really well, and I use them as an example throughout this presentation. Isti told me that he has this quote hanging up in his office, and sort of what I got out of it is that, you know, a lot of people, when you talk about social media, they say, that sounds great, but I don't know how to do it. Oh, we'd love to do it, but it takes a lot of time. Oh, we'd like to do it, but, and sort of lots of excuses that prevent people from really jumping in and trying to put together a meaningful social media experience. At this point, social media is not so much a new idea. It's been around for a few years now. People are figuring out how to use it and how to use it in exciting and effective ways. And so really getting used to using social media in your congregation is about escaping the old idea that you can't do it for whatever reasons have been holding you back. So thanks to Isti for this quote. I think it's a great one to start us off. So, you know, you hear from everybody that everybody is using social media. And we start to wonder, what does that really mean? Is everybody really on social media? The truth is that, of course, not everyone is on social media, but as you'll see in this survey done by the Pew Forum, I believe it's from just a couple of months ago, they update it every few months, 67% of all internet users are using social networking sites. So to be honest, I'm not sure what the other 33% of them are doing, because I think it's tough these days to be on the internet without being a social media user. Social media is everywhere. It's how we connect with brands. It's how we connect with our friends. It's how we connect with the world at large. We're really in the midst of a communications revolution, and the idea that 67% of people who use the internet are using these sites shows that this is where we need to be. We like to say that social media is about finding people where they are instead of necessarily requiring them to come to you. And so this is where people are. You can see the breakdown. There's only one demographic, 65 plus, where the majority of internet users are not on social media. But in every other age demographic, particularly some of the age demographics where we're trying to focus on as far as new members, young families, this is where folks are. So this is where people are. That means that this is where we should be as congregations as well. some characteristics of social media, and a lot of these are very similar and interconnected because that's sort of the nature of the social media beast. Social media is participatory and conversational, people talking with one another, jumping in on conversations, creating their own conversations, talking to people they know, talking to strangers, talking to brands, and open and democratic, which means that, you know, on social media, the playing field is a little bit leveled. So, you know, Justin Bieber might have millions of fans might have millions of followers on Twitter, but also, you know, you might find a blogger who has a couple thousand or million even fans that they've sort of built themselves up just on the internet. The internet really allows people to shine without necessarily being celebrities. They sort of become internet celebrities. On the internet, all of our voices matter with sort of equal weight and value. So I found this little graphic on Google today. I thought it was a good representation of social media. All these different people talking, standing in these little blocks, all connected to one another, sort of a big jumble. So social media is a lot like this, a very loud, noisy conversation, and not like this, which is a bullhorn. I used to like to say that social media is a bullhorn, or is like a telephone conversation, not a bullhorn. But really, even that is not so accurate anymore. The telephone conversation analogy sort of says that it's you talking to one other person, and the reality on social media is that anyone can jump in. It's not just a conversation between two people or even three people. It's a bunch of people talking together, creating conversation and community. And so I think this is really important to keep in mind, particularly as congregations and as organizations that have messages that we want to convey to people, things that we want to tell them, that we have to give. Oh, someone tells me that some of my talking is cutting out. Adam, can we look into that maybe a little? Okay, I'm just going to keep going, but comment in the question box if you guys are having that similar issue. So, like I was saying, I think that you know, as organizations and brands with messages to share, it's easy to see social media as a bullhorn. We want to get our message across, but we really need to view it as a conversation that involves other people and talking and listening. Oh. So when you're talking on the internet, when you're using social media, this is one of the most important things to keep in mind. It's so important that I'm telling it to you over and over and over in every font. Add value. What does add value mean? Add value means that if you're not saying something of interest, of value, of meaning to people, then they have no reason to be following you on social media. When social media first came about, it got a sort of a bad rap. People said, you know, why do I need to know what you're eating or what you're doing today, or that you're taking your finals, or that you're at Shabbat services? Why do I need to know what you're doing at this moment? Because initially social media sort of started as just updating people and giving them a little bit TMI about your life. But social media has really evolved such that that no one's really tweeting anymore that they're just eating a sandwich. You know, people are tweeting that things of value and of importance, and so everything that you are going to put into the internet sphere, anything you're going to put into the online realm, think before you tweet, before you Facebook, before you YouTube, any of it, what value you're adding to the conversation. And not only the value added of the item itself, but the value in the way that you present it, which means, you know, am I presenting something in a compelling way? Is this interesting? If I saw this tweet, would I care enough to click through? Would this event sound interesting to me when I read about it here? Add value, add value. Got it? Please add value. So let's start with figuring out the timing of when to post on social media. There are a few statistics for you here. 90% of clicks on any given Facebook post occur within 9 hours of being posted, which means that within half a day, you know, you post something at 9 a.m., by 9 p.m., most of the people who are going to see it have long passed, have already seen it. And in the first hour, so say you post something at 9, between 9 and 10, 50% of the people who are going to click on your post or engage with it will have already done so. So the internet has a pretty short attention span. We're living in an attention economy. And, if you can't keep people's attention, then, you know, things that we say on the internet disappear quickly, and so the things that we do say when we do have those people's attention needs to be compelling enough to draw them in. All of these statistics are about Facebook, but the same goes on Twitter as well, with an even shorter time span. On Twitter, given the rate that things scroll through news feeds, there are about almost 10,000 tweets a second, I believe, is the statistic that I read yesterday. So given the sort of clutter and noise on Twitter, you really want to make sure that the things that you're saying are things that matter to people. And then again, in terms of actual time frame, studies find that posts that go up outside regular business hours do see a greater level of engagement, and that's because, of course, people are working during the day. In terms of business hours that have the best success rate, on the 3-hour increment, so at 9 a.m., at noon, and at 3 p.m. are when studies show are the best times to post things to Facebook in particular, because that's when people are taking breaks. They're getting to work in the morning and booting up their computer at 9. They are taking a lunch break at noon, and then at 3 they're in that sort of midday slump. So if you do want to catch people during business hours, those are the best times to try to post to get their attention. Of course, none of us can be awake all the time, and even if we could be awake all the time, we sure wouldn't want to be at the computer working all the time. So there are a lot of ways to schedule your social media posts. On Twitter, there's no built-in function, so you have to utilize a third-party app. There are a number of these. You can do a Google search, apps for scheduling tweets, and you'll get a lot of results. You can test them out. Most of them are free. Most of them are free with a paid version that you can subscribe to depending on your level of need. This is, of course, not a professional endorsement, but, not an organizational endorsement, but I use Hootsuite. I really like it. I find it easy to use, and as the URJ social media manager, for about an hour and a half a day, I go through and I schedule all of our sort of announcement or blast tweets for the next day or so, and that allows me then to just check into Twitter casually throughout the day, or whenever I have the opportunity, so that I can do the retweeting and the chatting with people and responding to people as needed. But then I don't have to worry about trying to remember to get all of our information out throughout the day. I don't have to go back to my computer every hour to put together a new tweet. So, and then on Facebook, a little known secret that it seems a lot of people are still not familiar with, Facebook does have a built-in scheduling tool that will allow you to schedule posts on your page for the future. There's a good example here. You'll see this little clock that the arrow is pointing to. So you put together your status message exactly as you want it to be, and then you press this little clock button, and the date, month, and day and hour fields will pop up above it. You choose when you want it to go live, and then you press schedule, and that'll go up, and you don't have to worry about it. So this is a really good way, particularly, we use it on Jewish holidays. If we're going to be out of the office for the day, I'll put something up, to say that we're out of the office, but we hope you enjoy your holiday. It's a really great way to, again, to make sure that you can say everything you need to say, but time it in a way that is meaningful, that doesn't inundate people, and and that you don't have to be at your computer all the time. Okay. In terms of the actual setup of your accounts, the actual layout, I encourage people to make full use of the built-in layouts that come with these platforms. Right now we're talking specifically about Twitter and Facebook, but the same applies to LinkedIn, to YouTube, to Google+, to any of these. These platforms are designed to look good and to be useful to the end user. So leveraging them to their fullest capabilities makes you look professional, and of course it makes you look like you know what you're doing. And when people feel that brands, and in this case I'm using, congregations fall under that category of brands. When people feel like the brands know what they're doing, then they feel like those brands are trustworthy. So let's talk about a few ways to do this. I want to start out with Facebook banners. Facebook rolled out the banner function. That's that top piece here. You see Beth Emmet, the Free Synagogue near Chicago, has this great collage at the top. Facebook rolled out this banner function a little over a year ago, I believe. And yet still you'll encounter a lot of pages that don't have a banner. And I'm going to be honest with you, if I come across a page that doesn't have a banner, I assume that that page hasn't been on Facebook since the banner function went into effect. Even if you've got posts from last week or from yesterday or from this morning, I'm going to assume that if you haven't taken the time to figure out a banner, you're not serious about your social media presence. And so that's going to keep people from engaging with you online in a way that you would want them to, just by virtue of the initial appearance. So the banner is really sort of your Facebook doorstep. Optimal viewing size is 815 by 315, and your image should have no more than 20% text, which is a Facebook rule. If it has more than this, Facebook can shut you down, and they won't even tell you before they do it. They won't send you a warning to say that you're doing your banner wrong. They will instead just close your page, and sometimes you can get it back, sometimes you can't, but in general, better to not risk it and go with an image. So if this collage thing feels like a little too much for you, if you don't have the technical skills for that, don't worry about it. Lots of people don't. I don't necessarily. So luckily we have a designer on staff, but there are a lot of other ways to do a banner. So pick a photo that you like, that feels warm, that feels welcoming, and take that photo to a free photo editing site. Again, not an organizational endorsement, but I happen to like Ribbit.com and PhotoFlexer.com a lot. Ribbit you might be familiar with. It used to be Picnic.com, which went under and resurfaced as Ribbit, which is exactly the same. And using these free sites, you can pretty easily crop and resize photos. Something that I really like about this image from Central Synagogue in Manhattan is that the sanctuary is beautiful, it's bright, it's colorful, and it is packed to the gills. So you look at this, and if you're thinking of attending Shabbat services at Central Synagogue, you think, man, I know I'm not going to be one of the only people at this synagogue. I can either make friends with a whole bunch of people, or I can try to blend in if I'm a person who's a little bit nervous and wants to be a wallflower on my first visit. So I think photos like this that show something compelling about your congregation, whether it's smiling people, a great program you did, something Judaica, Jewish, think really hard about the image, because this is the first impression that people get of your page. Again, little note at the bottom here, the URJ provides holiday-themed Facebook banners for you to use that go out through our Bulletin Bites service, which you can sign up for through Rabbi Appel. This is sort of a little known thing, but just something that I like to tell people, and it's not necessarily intuitive or built into Facebook, but make your website's URL easy to find. It sounds like a given, but Facebook, the field where they ask you to enter your website when you're filling out your page's profile is not visible from the front page of your page. So I encourage people to put their URL, their website, in the About section, which is the little section the arrow is pointing to here. As you'll see, I've got the two URJ websites there. If you don't put it there, then people will have to click through. You see where it says About right underneath that arrow. If you don't put it in the About section, people have to click through to the larger About section, which is on a separate page, and that's the only way that they can see. Excuse me. That's the only way that they can see your URL, and then they click through to your website. So, on the internet, the more clicks people have to do, the more likely you are to lose them along the way. So with each click they need to complete an action, the more likely you are to lose some people, that some people will fall off and not complete it. So, having your URL in the About section means that it's right up front and people don't have to do this extra step of clicking through to figure out what your website is. On Twitter, streamline your Twitter layout too. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit. If you don't have a fancy background like we've got here, you can just use a blank background. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. I do encourage people to choose a plain picture for their image. You know, where you see where we have the Jerusalem stone here. I encourage people to choose a plain-ish photo like this one. I think there's an inclination to want to choose something fun or festive or something with people like you would on the Facebook banner, but the problem here on Twitter is then you can't see the bio, the text of the bio above it, and so it ends up looking cluttered. As for your avatar, which is your little profile picture, if your synagogue has a logo, usually that's the best choice. It says that you're a brand, it says that you're serious about your brand, and it helps to brand you. So just as important as pictures is the words that you use in your bio. You'll see here Temple Sinai in Atlanta doesn't have a picture in as their Twitter banner, but the words they use matter almost more than any photo that they could choose. Saying right up front that they welcome and create a comfortable environment for traditional and non-traditional families, which means that single parents, LGBT families, whomever you may be, right off the bat you know that you have a place at Temple Sinai. Same goes for Soul Congregation. They do have an image, but their bio I think is really great. You know, you don't have to wonder to yourself, will I be welcome at this synagogue? The answer is right there. Whether you're a Jew by birth, a Jew by choice, or not Jewish at all, you're welcome at their congregation. And finally, consider telling people who they're talking to. On social media as well as in real life, transparency translates into honesty, and honesty conveys respect, or honesty breeds respect. So this is, again, the URJ's banner, where it says most tweets by Kate Bigham, social media manager, just to let people know that they're not just talking to a sort of nameless, faceless entity, that they're not talking to a corporation. They're talking to a place that has people and people who care about you. It also means that occasionally you can break the mold of being strictly organizational, and I can, for example, respond to somebody using I, and they'll know who the I in that situation is. Of course, speaking on behalf of the URJ, but it gives it a little bit more personal feel. So now that we've gotten some of the technical stuff out of the way, what do we post on congregational Facebook or congregational social media accounts? So we're going to start with Facebook. When you're posting content on Facebook, you really want to mix it up. There are a lot of different types of content that you can post to Facebook. On Twitter, of course, it's mostly text or links. You can post photos, but they show up in the form of links. So that's sort of all you've got. Those are your only options on Twitter for the most part. On Facebook, you really have the opportunity to create a visual mosaic of different kinds of content. Studies show that the most popular type of content on Facebook is photos. Photos have the highest rate of interaction, in some cases up to 3 times better engagement levels than any other type of content. Photos are followed by status updates, which is just a text update. This is the most common. I'm sorry, that's not true actually. In descending order, or in order, the next most popular are video, music, and links. Links are the most popular type of Facebook update. Which is, of course, you know, you're directing someone to a website, presumably your website. But you'll see that links, according to some studies, do the worst on Facebook. You know, there's really no way around this. As brands, as congregations, we want and really are on Facebook with a need to direct people to our you know, to our website, to other things online. And so there's really no way around it, but my recommendation is that the more you mix it up and sort of use these other types of content interspersed with just links, the more successful you will be on Facebook. It makes it look like, you know, a little bit less like just link regurgitation. So I hope that you guys appreciate this Venn diagram that I created, which is probably the nerdiest thing that I could have done in front of a group of this many people. You know, the song by Meatloaf, I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. They're two separate things on this Venn diagram, and that is how Facebook content and Twitter content should be. That's not to say that you can't promote the same things on Facebook and on Twitter, but just to say that that the way you promote it should not look the same across contents, or across platforms. Specifically, some folks are in the habit of connecting their Facebook and Twitter accounts, which means that anytime they do a Facebook status update, it turns it into a tweet, and vice versa. The problem with this is that these platforms aren't designed to be the same. Facebook updates can be longer, so when they translate into tweets, they'll be truncated, they have links, they're sort of messy. And then, of course, on Twitter, you have hashtags, which are very functional on Twitter, but on Facebook are nothing at all. And so it's generally considered poor form for brands to cross-link their accounts. It says that you're sort of phoning it in on one of them. So we can talk a little bit later about how to decide which one of these platforms is right for you if you feel that you only have the manpower to get behind one of them. But I think this is an important content piece to keep in mind. And also because if you're putting the same thing on both of them in exactly the same way, it provides people no incentive to follow you on both platforms. And of course, some people aren't going to follow you on both platforms to begin with. Some people may prefer one over the other, may not use one over the other. You know, but if you're posting the exact same thing down to the word on both, then they're just going to pick one, and they're going to miss some of your messages on Facebook, whereas they might have seen them on Twitter, and vice versa. So here's an example, and I hope that you'll forgive me. I do use congregational examples along the way, but for some of my examples, I went with the URJ because I am quite intimately familiar with what we post to the URJ's social media accounts, so it was easier for me to come up with examples like this. But there are a lot of congregations that are doing this well as well. So here's just an example of an article from the URJ's blog that we wanted to promote on both Facebook and Twitter, and the two different ways that we did it. And I should mention that on Twitter, I actually did about 3 or 4 tweets about this over the span of, well, they're still going because it's still May and it's about Jewish American Heritage Month. But so this is just one of the examples. One of them looks a little bit more like the Facebook one, but yeah, so you see that on Twitter I use the hashtag, which helps aggregate similar conversations. It turns, you put the pound sign before a word, and it will turn that word into a link, so that if you were to click on the word Jewish in this situation, it would take you to other tweets from across Twitter, including people you follow, people you don't follow, anyone who's talking about the word Jewish and using a hashtag. And the purpose of doing that is hopefully to, you know, it's, again, like I said, to aggregate conversations, and in the case of something like this, to be a part of the conversation and to hopefully encourage other folks to follow you, to find you, and for you to find other people of interest as well. So, and then on Facebook, here we link to the National Museum of American Jewish History because they wrote this blog post for us, and we wanted to give them some kavod. Excuse me. This is a great thing for congregations, I think. The hashtag is a little bit harder for congregations because, you know, typically you're not going to find someone super local just by using a hashtag unless it's a very specialized local hashtag. But on Facebook, there's an opportunity to connect with other pages in a way that really helps foster goodwill and to broaden the community. You know, say your congregation invites a local church over for Shabbat dinner, and you want to share a photo album from the evening, and so you would share the photo album on Facebook, and then, you know, you write, we had a great time with Church of the Nazarene from down the road on Friday night. You know, we hope to join them at a Sunday service and, you know, and see all of our new friends again or something. And then you link to that church, which helps them find you, so that if any of them had been at your event, they can figure out how to come back to you and to say thanks. Of course, this is sort of a weird example because you want Jews to be finding you, I guess, primarily, but sort of helps to, like I said, to foster that goodwill and to expand the community that you're working with online. one of the most important things about social media is becoming a space for conversation. This goes back to that analogy that social media is not a bullhorn. It's sort of that jumble of talking. So occasionally experiment with ways on social media to get responses out of folks. Ask them questions, post pictures of them. Of course, these are two examples of the former, of asking people questions. And when they do ask questions, show that you value their answers. So you'll see here that the URJ liked a couple of these responses. There were a number of other responses, and that this one, which I thought was really nice, we asked, what's your favorite thing about Jerusalem? This man had never been. But expressed his longing to visit and his solidarity with the women of the wall. And so the URJ's response there is nothing big, but does tell this individual that we really like his response, that we're paying attention, and that people's answers matter, that we do care what they're saying. And so you don't have to do that on every single one, but if as an end user, if you see that a brand does occasionally respond to folks, then you feel a little bit more incentive. It's you don't want to be talking into the abyss. So every now and then, make sure you're coming back. Even if people don't ask you a question, they don't need anything from you, just, tell them thanks, agree with them, something little to say that you're paying attention. And this is related. Never underestimate the power of the reply. The social media business is part customer service. So if you are sorry, I'm sorry, someone said I should get a glass of water. I have one, I'm just losing my voice. Social media is just as much customer service as anything else. God forbid someone should come onto your Facebook page and ask a question. They want to attend a service, but they're not sure of the time of it or something, and no one responds to them, and so they don't make it to services. And then they think, well, maybe no one cared that I asked this. Maybe it doesn't matter to them if I show up or not. So when people have questions, you really want to make sure that you respond to them in a timely fashion. All of these examples here are from Temple Israel of Memphis, which is not to say that they're the only ones doing it well. Plenty of congregations are doing it well. They just had a bunch of good examples right up front all at once. So, and you'll see that not all of these are questions. Some of them are just people saying, people popping in to say good things about their experience with the synagogue, and the response that the synagogue gives them says, we're listening to you, we're so happy that you're part of our mishpacha, of our family, and that we hope you come back. That's the inherent message in that, is that we care enough about you, thank you for caring about us, sort of we're all in this together. Another great thing about social media is that it sort of humanizes clergy for their congregants. Of course, not every rabbi or cantor is going to be a social media person, and they shouldn't feel the pressure to be. But in some situations where rabbis and cantors feel comfortable with it, it can be a really great way to sort of bring these members of the clergy down to a relatable and easy to contact level for their congregants. You think about in a congregation, the rabbi is so busy, performing weddings, performing funerals, preparing for Shabbat services, preparing for holidays, and then of course having a life of their own, that it can be hard to get that face time with the rabbi, particularly in a large synagogue. So if you're a member of the clergy, has social media personally, it can be a really nice way to help connect folks to members of your clergy in a way that feels meaningful. They feel like they're getting to know them sort of outside just the pulpit on a Saturday morning or a Friday night. So these were just some examples of ones that I thought were particularly well done and pretty fun. It's really important on social media to develop a voice. If your social media accounts sound like they're run by machines, then people aren't gonna. There's not really going to be anything there to tell people that they want to get to know you. So these are just a couple good examples of congregations using a little bit more casual voice than usual. A synagogue education center asking for their library books back. this great graphic from Central Synagogue. We're live streaming our Seder, so be careful with that fourth glass. I think is brilliant. And you can see on the right-hand side where the comments are that they also did what we talked about earlier, which is replying to people directly. Someone says, will live streaming continue after dinner? And Central chimes in to say, no, live streaming is done, but thanks so much for joining us, just to let people know, that they're paying attention and that they care about your questions. The one in the middle links to a congregational newsletter, but I thought was an interesting way. It could have just been a tweet that said, May newsletter from Temple Israel, 2013. But the sort of fun wording here makes you feel like, oh, hey, I'm a little bit interested. This sounds sort of fun. And again, these are just some more examples. I'm going to speed through these so that we have time to ask some questions at the end. This slide is placed a little bit funny because, of course, a lot of the things that we've been talking about so far are images. And we talked about how images are the most popular Facebook content. The great thing about this, people love to see themselves they love to see their picture online. It sort of makes people feel a little bit famous, particularly when it comes from a brand. So when it comes from your congregation, they feel like a part of the community. They can share it with their community. They can tag themselves in the photos. Once they tag themselves, then the photos show up in their timeline so other people from their lives can see them. Just makes people feel good. And here are a few more good examples. This one from Congregation Solel, of course, doesn't include people, but I thought it was an interesting example of something of an interesting way to share pictures. They're redoing their sanctuary, and so they're saying, here are the last few pictures of our sanctuary looking like you remember it. Before we get this beautiful new sanctuary, share your memories with us and tell us what you're looking forward to. So that's kind of a fun way to engage people. The one with Central Synagogue here on the left, they could have just said our maintenance team's getting ready for the storm, or we'll be open during the storm. Hope you can make it. But instead, they sort of took a fun route. They showed you the people behind the getting ready for the storm, to hopefully entice people in a little bit more. And if you can't join, hope that you'll join us online with a cup of hot cocoa. So I thought that was a great way to do that. We've got a couple questions that I want to address. Whoops. Let's see. Someone says, do you have to get people's permission to post their photos on a congregation's Facebook page, which is a great question. Congregations do this in a number of different ways, including including hanging a sign at an event. Say you're going to be in an event and you put up a sign that says, these photos may be posted online or used in promotional material. By attending this event, you give us permission to use your photos. Some congregations include a photo waiver in their membership packages, which gets a little tricky if you want to post a photo of somebody who's not a member. I guess it depends on the congregation. There's no sort of generally accepted practice here. Many congregations don't ask at all. So that's sort of a thing that you will have to work out with your congregation to figure out what people are the most comfortable with. But generally, if someone's posing for a photo, you can tell them, hey, this will show up on our Facebook page later. And if they say, oh my gosh, no, I don't want to be on your Facebook page, then you delete that picture. But if they're posing for a posed photo, they probably assume it's going to show up somewhere, especially in the internet age. Someone asks, is it best to let people tag themselves, and how do you go about letting people know they should do so? So I want to go back to this picture. Pages cannot tag individuals. So here, for example, Congregation Beth Israel of San Diego would not be able to tag the people on their own, although whoever the person is who runs Congregation Beth Israel of San Diego's page could, as themselves, if they're friends with all these people, could then go back to the page as themselves and tag all of the individuals. So the other part of this question is, how do you go about letting people know that they should tag themselves? There are a few different ways to do it. You can, of course, send them an email. You can send them a Facebook message. What often happens is that you post a picture and then people start tagging the people they know. So it's possible that whoever runs this page didn't tag anybody at all, but when it went up, Henry Nieberg's mom tagged him, and then once he was tagged, he tagged Harrison, and it sort of goes on and on. So, if you have a couple folks in your congregation who don't mind being tagged, people who are particularly active, start with them and ask if it's okay that you tag them. If you have that capability, if you're friends with them on Facebook, ask them for their permission, and then hopefully it grows from there. But often this sort of thing is organic. People start tagging the people that they know. These are just another good example of some fun content from a congregation in LA that has sort of promoted work that its congregants are doing. So this is one congregant who's doing an interview on a project she's working on, and one congregant who's got a book out. And these sort of things can be great conversational pieces, so that when you see Richard Levick at synagogue on Friday, you can tell him, like, hey, I saw that you wrote a book, looking forward to reading it, or what got you into this? It sort of starts people off with something to chat with people about, whether they know those people or not. A couple people have asked right now in the question box about Facebook pages versus Facebook groups. Someone says, what do you think of a congregation maintaining a private group for certain conversations and a page for public-facing announcements? I think this is a great idea, and I think that if your congregation wants to have a group, this is exactly the way that you should do it. The difference between a group and a page on Facebook is that a page is public, sort of the version of your website, and a Facebook group is a little bit more like a listserv. It can be open or closed, but you have to become a member in order to participate in the conversation. You can close the group so that people have to be approved to be in it. So for example, if you wanted to have a group that was only for people who are paid congregants, you could do that. The risk that you run with having groups is, of course, that people feel left out, that depending on your rules for the group, it can be a little bit alienating. If people have to become paying members in order to be a member of the group, then they feel like, this congregation doesn't care about me until I'm giving them money. Or something like that. Unfortunately, someone asked, do we have any guidelines for using pages and groups, each to their unique strengths? We don't have anything like that right now. I am happy to talk it through with you if you're facing this individual dilemma or trying to figure it out. But in terms of, generally, I encourage congregations to have a page, and if they have a group, to have the group as sort of as a supplement or a different thing, but not to have just a group, because a group can be a little bit intimidating. You have to join. Other pages can't link to your group, things like that. So the pages are really key here, I think, and groups are a little bit secondary, I would say, and a little bit more like a listserv. So you might recognize this picture. This is the funny version of the picture, the very serious picture that we saw earlier. Social media is a serious business, but it can be really fun too. Nobody wants to belong to a synagogue that's all business all the time, only white robes, standing serious in the sanctuary after studying. So I thought this picture that was posted right after the serious one was a really fun way to show that the congregation is a fun place to be. And again, these are just a few creative ways to do social media. This one on the right-hand side, Michael Pollan, the author, was coming to this synagogue, and they wanted to sort of tease his visit. And so so instead of just, say, posting a picture of Michael Pollan or posting a picture of the cover of his book or whatever, they actually link to a clip of his last appearance on The Daily Show, so that you can, if you're maybe on the fence about going to see this, and you're like, I don't really know who Michael Pollan is, but I like The Daily Show. You click through and you see, like, oh, this was a great interview. This guy's really interesting. I would love to see him. Like, I can't believe he's going to be in my neighborhood. And then you show up to the event. So I thought this was a really great way to tease that. On the left, again, this could have been tweeted as, come to our charity golf tournament on Monday, but instead it was done in a sort of fun way where each of these, it looks a little bit like an internet invitation, details RSVP video, and then he says 4, and it links to this this picture of of more information about the event. And of course, each of these links goes to more information about the event. And again, try to do something fun. I think these are a few great ways that congregations have tried to up the engagement quotient. You know, the one on the top is a sign where congregants write why they're a member of the congregation, and then the congregation posts them to Facebook, which is fun both for the people in the pictures and the people who know them, because they feel, again, a little bit famous, or they say, oh, hey, I know Jake, and, you know, that's a fun picture. The congregation also encouraged people to take their own pictures next time they're in the synagogue, but also to people who might be considering becoming members. These photos say to them that these people have, you know, it sort of conveys their reasons for being members of this congregation, and may actually help entice people to make it through the doors of your synagogue. The one below that is a congregation in Virginia that throughout the whole month of May is posting content related to being nice and not speaking Lashon Hara or gossip, which I think is sort of a cool thing to do, this month-long theme of content. And then on the right is a favorite of mine, Rabbi Matt Soffer from Temple Israel in Boston, started doing during the counting of the Omer, which is, of course, the period of time between Passover and Shavuot, when we're supposed to be doing some reflecting. Every day of the Omer, he tweeted this hashtag Tweet the Omer with the day of the Omer that it was, and he asked a question either about Judaism or personal reflection. This one is one of the more lighthearted of the bunch, but I used it in here because I thought it got sort of a perfect response. You'll see that in his initial tweet, he included some folks who he knows to be Jewish foodies, to see if they would get responses, and then maybe those people will retweet it, and then maybe their followers will retweet it to sort of get that rolling effect of communicating with more folks. Somebody responded to him to say that she found the most/least Jewish food, which you'll see is bacon cheddar chips, of course with a kosher symbol on them, which is a little bit ironic. The hashtag one is a little bit harder to do if you don't already, it's hard to create your own hashtag if you don't already have a following that would allow you to do so. But if you don't sort of have that engagement base right off the bat, Rabbi Soffer does, he has a lot of followers, but if you don't, you know, consider finding a hashtag project like this and participating in it, because then your congregation or you as an individual, you become a part of the conversation. And then people are interested in what you have to say. It helps people find you. All right. Here's something that I think is really important. Keep your links clean. This is the most common mistake I see on congregational and brand pages. It's an easy fix, and it helps make your page look so much better, so much more professional. On Facebook, keeping your links clean means getting rid of the text version of the URLs in your updates, and instead letting Facebook's populated preview function do the linking for you. So if you've ever posted to Facebook, you know that when you put something into this little status text box, whenever you put a URL in there, Facebook will automatically populate the piece below for you, including with the thumbnail. You can flip through or choose no thumbnail. With the title, which if you double click on it you can change, and with the first few lines of whatever the page is, which you can also click through and change, and I encourage you to do that if you can change it to something that's more enticing. But if you don't remove this URL, the text version, from the text box, it will you'll post it. So it'll look like this. On the left-hand side, this is from my personal page because I didn't want to post it in this form to the URJ's page, but you'll see what it looks like if you don't remove the URL version. It has both the populated preview and the full thing, plus the text that I wanted people to read. And I want people to focus on my blurb about Maimonides. I don't want them to, you know, to be distracted or turned away by this ugly URL. So all you do, you type in the rest of the stuff that you want. After this is populated, you remove the text URL, and it looks like this one on the right. Which I hope that you'll agree looks so much better, a lot cleaner, a lot less to get distracted by, and a lot easier on the eye. If you want to post a photo with a link, this is, of course, a great way to do both, to have a link and the visual. You can do like Central Synagogue did on the left. If you have a short URL, their synagogue URL is not very long, so that worked out fine for them. On the right, Sixth and I Synagogue, which is sort of an event venue in Washington, D.C., they've got a speaker coming, and so presumably the URL here is too long. It's probably a long, messy registration URL. So they've shortened it using a free service. Along the right-hand side here, you'll see the names of some services. The ones that I use, the one that I use the most often is Google's, the goo.gl. You can go to that website. You can type in any URL, click a button, and it'll shorten the URL for you and make it look a lot less messy. Because again, if they hadn't done this, they would have sort of like on the page before, the text and then the very long, messy URL. And instead, this looks very clean and very well done. So, if a tree falls, no one is there to hear it. Does what you're saying matter? Same goes on social media. Make sure people know how to find you online. You know, make sure that you're not speaking into a vacuum. There are a lot of ways to promote your social media accounts internally within your congregation, and I recommend starting there if you haven't already. Here are a bunch of suggestions, and I also have this in handout form, which if you want to shoot me an email or tweet at the URJ, I'm happy to send the more complete handout to you of some ways to market your personal or your organizational account. There are, and you know, this of course means that in any printed materials and any online materials that your congregation is putting out, essentially make sure that there's, even if you can't put the whole URL on it, put the Facebook and Twitter logo on there and say find us online. And you know, just to let people know that you exist in the online sphere, to remind them to even try to find you. Because otherwise, you know, you could be putting out the best content in the world, and if no one is finding you in order to see it, then, you know, what does it matter? Of course, social media offers a lot of built-in ways to track your success. Facebook built-in insight panel will show you who's talking about your page and sort of what has been working best for you. Here you can see, again, a peek behind the curtain. This is the URJ's Facebook administrator panel. So this is where you can find this. If you're the administrator of your Facebook page, you should see this, something like this, anytime you log into your page. Click through to right under the little circle. It says See All next to Insights. You click on that, and it will show you your page's reach over a specific time period. You know, you can see that in April, around Passover time, which is a really popular Jewish holiday, of course, and people are always looking for food and crafts and Haggadah ideas and all kinds of stuff. We had a lot of success around that time, and then it sort of leveled off as social media, as Jewish social media does over summer. But, you know, start paying attention. You can also see in that same panel, when you click on the insights, you can see exactly what posts of yours have been the most popular. You can see the level of virality, who's talking about it, how many people it reached, to sort of get a feel for what's doing well, and to hopefully replicate that in the future. And again, a little bit of self-promotion is okay to try to, I think this slide is out of place, I just realized, but to try to get people to find your page. Don't be ashamed to do a little bit of self-promoting. Here are a few examples. On the left, Helen Chernikoff is a reporter. The URJ wanted to, you know, we saw that she was talking about something that we had blogged about, and so we let her know. Same thing, the one at the bottom, John Haidt is an author, a blogger on our blog, had just written about his book and all of the existential questions that it brought about for him, and so we let the author know. You know, don't be afraid to do this. If you're working with another organization, you know, if someone is sponsoring an event for you, you know, say so on social media and sort of help them find you. So want to learn more? Of course you do, I hope. A couple people have asked in the questions box about who staffs, about how to figure out employee staffing, who should staff your social media accounts. I recommend that you check out the URJ and Dareem Online social media policy workbook for Jewish organizations, made in collaboration with Idealware and a few other organizations. A lot of Jewish organizations are using this. A lot of congregations are using this. It's a great way to figure out what matters to your congregation, what your goals are, and how to move forward with those in a way that social media can enhance and grow for you. Social Media Bootcamp is a year-long program that the URJ offered. It ended in January, but all of the, it was a series of webinars with Dareem Online, which is an organization that works with Jewish organizations on social media. And we work very closely with them. So we ran a series of webinars. They're all archived online, more than a dozen of them. They're free to members of URJ congregations. If you email me or, again, tweet at the URJ or put your email address in the question box right now and tell me you want it, I'm happy to send you the login information so that you can get into the boot camp area and listen to some of those webinars. And here's just a little feel for what those webinars are. Foundations of Social Media is a beginner one, and then there's a beginner webinar on each of these platforms, all the way down to a little bit more weighty philosophical items, depending on your level of interest, of engagement, and of skill. And then finally, learn by example. I encourage you, I hope that you're following the URJ on social media. Please feel free to talk to us, to engage with us, to tell you what you like, what you don't like about what we're doing, and to ask us questions. I'm happy to help you find congregations and organizations that are doing a good job of social media. And when you see something you like, try to do it yourself. Figure out what looks good about what you like and how can you do that. And just experiment a little, try to recreate. I've also yet to meet a congregational communication director who doesn't like to be told that they're doing a really good job of social media. So if you see someone who's doing it well, feel free to reach out to a congregation, make a friend, and find a mentor. And also, again, I want to give a shout out to Isti Bardos, who did help me come up with some of the content for this, to follow TI Israel on Twitter. I'm afraid that's not their handle and that I'm forgetting it off the top of my head. But I will give him a shout out on Twitter if you guys want to find it later. Oh, I'm sorry. It's TI Memphis on Twitter. Okay, so that's all I've got for now. I'm going to turn it back over to Victor or Adam to close us up. But like I said, I hope to hear from you on social media. Please feel free to email me. My email address is kbigam@urj.org. I should have put it on a slide here. K, B as in boy, I-G-A-M @urj.org. I'm happy to help however I can. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kate. This was a fantastic and informative webinar. To all of our listeners, thank you for spending the hour with us. We hope you enjoyed it as well. Do not worry, we have a log of all of the questions and requests that came in, so if you requested to be added to the bootcamp webinar list, we will definitely get you on that. And for those who wanted copies of the slide presentation, Kate will be taking care of that. Within a couple of days, the webinar presentation will be posted to the URJ's YouTube page, and I'll be sending out the link to that. And then when I send the link out to that, I'll also send you the invitation to our next in our marketing series, our next webinar, which is going to be about what's new in websites with our guest Jill Poutzman, who is the URJ's webmaster. You can make a note of it now. It's going to be on Wednesday, June 12th at 2 o'clock Eastern Time, and the invitation, again, will be going out shortly. So thank you all for joining us today for this great webinar, and thank you to Kate for doing such a great job. Adam?
That's all. Thanks for joining us, everybody.